Welcome to Holding Space. Michael Zen is a visual producer and creative photographer using his imaginative visionary energy to channel Zen and hold space for spiritual and innovative discussion. Each episode creates a supportive, accepting, and open environment that allows exploration and expertise to come together with engaging and entertaining convergence. With guest and community all helping the shape of the way, Michael is grateful to be together to hold space. Now here is your host of Holding Space, Michael Zen.
Yes, here I am, Michael Zinn. I am the host of Holding Space. That's where you have ended up on this Tuesday, February 4th, on the Sacred Spiral Network, as well as on my personal Facebook channel, Michael Zinn, the Live Stream of Consciousness channel, the Live Stream of Consciousness YouTube, a bunch of different destinations, which is what I love so much about the Sacred Spiral Network. It's a network of different destinations where people come to gather and kind of vibe together. And I am Michael Zinn, and what I do is I hold space. I have a wonderful guest every week, and I hold space for that guest, and I share that space with the audience as well. I want to say hello to Mort. What's up, Mort? I see Mort out there. I see Eveline out there. What's up, Eveline? Grace Grella. What's up, Grace Grella? And I see Bernadette. Bernadette looking for some help already. Bernadette, we will get to your help. It's definitely part of why we're here. I know the Sacred Spiral Network has a lot of healers who do lots of readings. My guests are all different kinds of modalities. Last week we had Minty May, who was a tarot reader, so he did some readings. Christopher Allan, my guest tonight, is an amazing psychic medium. Grace Grella is reminding me, #live. If you're watching the show live, please comment in the comments, or if you're on YouTube, in the comments below, in the chat room or the comments, #live. That lets me know you're here. That lets the algorithm know that you're here, so we can get more and more eyeballs on the show, more and more people to share the messages that we share. And if you're watching the replay, #replay, because the algorithm counts the replay watchers as well, to tell the world about the show. And I see Kelly Brickle, the producer of the Sacred Spiral Network, out there as well. What's up, Kelly? Good to see you. I see Ninja Kitty out there, who is live. I see Bernadette, who is live. I see Debbie, who is live. Awesome. YouTube as live as possible right now. Awesome. That's great. All of that energy adds to the experience of what we're doing here, on the Sacred Spiral Network, on Holding Space, on the Live Stream of Consciousness. I see Mort is live. Kelly Brickle saying, "Hey, Michael." Also live. I know she's out there live. Thank you guys for coming here. If you are not subscribed and you do subscribe, I will ring my bell. I won't tell you to ring the bell. I'll ring my bell. Oh, that's so cool. Wait, it just vibrates. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But that's how we get the community growing. That's how we grow the vibe. We raise the vibration. So thank you guys for being here. I'm super excited. Tonight is installment number 5 of Holding Space. Can you believe it? We just started this year, and already we're on number 5. I've had 4 amazing guests, and my 5th guest is no less amazing. Somebody who's been on the Live Stream of Consciousness a few times, somebody who I've worked with a few times. I actually am going to introduce him via the promo video that he's got on his website. I see Nancy Martella out there as well. What's up, Nancy? I think Nancy's going to be on this show too. What I love about this Sacred Spiral community is that there are a lot of people out there with their own gifts who come and share the space and get readings from other psychic mediums and just sharing the gifts. I love that vibe. But anyway, here's a little introduction for Chris. I'm going to play it and I'm going to step to the side. Here's a little bit about who Christopher Allan is, my guest, who you're going to meet right after this video. Well, hold on a second. I've got to get used to this new studio. Here we go. You should be able to hear this.
My dad's name was Al, and they want me to make sure I bring up who Al would be for you.
It was his father's name.
I'm picking up pancreatic cancer. I'm also supposed to bring up like the female that passes also.
Yes.
So we can say the female died from pancreatic cancer?
Yes.
The 15th of a month is also a significant birthday anniversary for you guys. They also want me to say mom, that's crossed over. So mom's also passed for us?
My mom.
Yes. Yeah. So they just want me to make sure I get...
On the 15th.
There it is. Gotcha. So you have a son?
Yes.
Do you know why I'm seeing Bob Ross around him?
He listens to Bob Ross every night to go to bed.
Have you ever found yourself ever going to the Southwest, like Colorado or...
Yes, I moved to Colorado in 1991.
Okay.
With my son.
With your son. He also wants me to bring up little vials of ashes are connected.
Yes.
But he wants me to bring up... Do you know why I'm seeing a world of like reclaimed wood, or somebody who just like hung like a giant shelf?
So we're building a home out east.
Okay.
And we have reclaimed wood that we're putting up.
And does somebody have like a Superman tattoo, or is there somebody also connected to like, oh, that's me? Dad wants me to mock you with car keys. Supposed to bring up the feeling of, I got him over here. Actually, do you have your father's keys?
I have my father's keychain on my feet.
That's what he wants me to bring up. Right now?
Yeah.
Take it out and let's see it. It's his way to bring up, he's aware of what's on the keychain. So, very cool. It's just his way to validate this is him and hold those things tight, because if the physical presence isn't there anymore, it's the memories, it's the little things that are going to hopefully last us a lifetime. Your son is okay and doesn't want to be remembered about being sick. There was a kid named Tommy, I think, that used to be this reoccurring guest on Oprah, and your son shows me him.
His name is Thomas.
Gotcha. Some kind of like memorial walk?
We've done that. Yeah.
In honor of him?
Yep.
So that's what he wants from Brim, is a feeling of, I'm walking with you when you walk for me.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. And that's how I choke up. There's also a younger male that's also passed away for us?
Yes.
Okay, like we lost the son, we lost the nephew?
Son.
Okay, go to like a kiosk in the mall where they take like these like stainless steel things and they can put like an image on the person. Your son wants me to bring up who's got that.
We all have them.
Is it printed with his face on it though?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Crazy. I don't know if there is a picture with writing on the back of it or attaching on the back of picture frames. You know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I have a picture. I took a picture with you today of him with...
Is he the 11th?
Yes. Yes. His birthday's coming up this month, June 11th.
Your nephew wants me to bring up somebody's known for having some kind of constructive surgery to their chest.
Ryan, I'm going to kill you. No. Yeah, me.
Okay.
Oh my God. Now the whole world knows.
He was spot on. He was spot on.
Although we are always searching for answers, the other side has taught me this work isn't just about healing. It's about remembering life is to be celebrated, not mourned.
You're absolutely right, man.
All right. So I wanted to show that video because I don't think I could do the justice that video does to the amazing validations that Christopher gets. I've known Christopher for many years. As a matter of fact, I forgot that I made a little appearance in that video. Some of what you saw is a live broadcast that Christopher and I did a couple of years back at a studio. Christopher and I met, and I had said to him when I'm like, you have such a great personality. You're so amazing with your gift. You should do a show. And we manifested that. It happened. And here we are many years later. That was very cool. You don't even know the half of it. He's such an amazing, a very clear conduit for spirit. So I'm excited to bring him to the Sacred Spiral community. Welcome to Holding Space, Christopher Allan. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on this new show, on this new platform, and I am so happy to be a part of something like this.
Thank you. You're actually exactly perfect to be a part of this. You know how I love to hold space, and just share everybody's gift, because I'm just so fascinated with everybody's different connection to source and how they express it and how they share it and how they use it in service. I think when we were first friends, I was just kind of dipping my toes into the spiritual community, but I was certainly a skeptic, when it came to psychic mediums, and very, very quickly just hanging around with you, and some of the things that you do when you read, hopefully were evident in that video. The visuals that you get and the messages that you get are so unique and individual, so it's like, you can't even dispute it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about yourself because, yeah, I remember when I met you, you were just as friendly and just as warm as you are today. But I remember that there was this other aspect of you that you seemed like you were almost kind of struggling with something, and it's just amazing within just such a short period of time, you just had to kind of open up and tap into not becoming spiritual. It's almost like you had to remember who you were, and
Absolutely.
now you are self-realized more than ever. And I'm so grateful that I can have watched that unfold before my eyes. And as a friend, I'm so happy to see the true you kind of come out, and now you are a part of kind of this awakening that we're all going through.
Absolutely. I do feel like it's part of my mission to raise the vibration through just kind of being it, right? Just being love, and just being connected and being open. That it was I think spiritual community was the community that did help me remember the part of myself that was non-judgmental, right? That's the biggest thing that I've been discovering about myself and what this is all about and what live stream is all about. And I don't know if you remember the show Strange and Wonderful that I was doing. It's just the idea that everybody's unique, and to accept everybody and to love everybody, and not especially in this day and age, not be like, hey, you're different than me, and point my finger at that person and hate on that person, for a lack of a better word. You know what I mean? Love on that person, right? Like, why be hating on people? Love on people.
Yeah, you remind me well, I'll be driving down the road with my wife, and my wife will get road rage, and I'll be annoyed at the guy that cut me off,
Right.
and just there's a split second where I also want to join in on my wife, who's more prone to just kind of being reactionary, where I'm like, hey, you don't really know what that person's going through, rather than who knows why? Maybe they weren't even they don't deserve to for us to cut them back off. And I always remind myself, I think it's about just kind of giving love even to the people that sometimes in some moments you don't feel like deserve it. But I think that's really the testament of you always acting from your higher self. And so that's something that I think also in time, besides you, I've rubbed off on that on my wife, and she's
Awesome.
wonderful soul that she always was meant to be. And it's so cool. So thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's exactly it, right? It's just by being you, I definitely notice people that I've been around that start off kind of with a certain kind of disposition, and then slowly over time, it's like they're like, you know what, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? I'm sure you learned some Spanish curse words along the way.
Oh yeah, that's all I know actually. I don't know any, and it's funny because I'm adopted, but I'm from Colombia, so everybody expects me to just be fluent by now, and I'm like, I know all the bad words in Spanish. I'm getting there though.
Awesome. And Grace Grell is out there saying she's blessed to have had 2 readings by you. Spot on. which is great. And that's one of the things I was saying. Grace Grella, also a wonderful psychic medium, and this community is all about like knowing the not the opposite of skeptical, more like, okay, where can I find another psychic medium to talk to and get a reading from?
Nowadays it's like every 3 houses. That's what I feel, especially here in New York. Like it's every 3 houses you can find now a medium if you want. And isn't that really kind of like the wonderful thing, as much as I joke about it, that the more people are tapping into this world, the more that they are, and there should be, it should be this. In a perfect world or utopian society, everybody would be aware of this, right? And so the whole everybody should be, everybody's a medium, and so.
Well, you always say that. You always said that in your shows. You always said everybody can do this. It's just kind of, being still, meditating, kind of getting into certain practices that allow you to tap into that side of yourself, which is the side of the spiritual community that I like, right? I don't like any of the like woo-woo, like not stuff without explanation, but the stuff with explanation, like taking deep breaths, looking inside, finding the answer that way. I think that's great. People are asking if they can ask you psychic questions, and I asked Chris if he would do a couple of readings, and he said he would later. But I want to hold some space for Chris, and I want to tell Chris's story. Chris, and I know you've told your story over and over. You've had some great guest appearances on shows like Maury and on news news outlets. That's the word I was looking for. Because you are you're really personable, and again, the validations and the stories that happen are amazing. Even when you go visit these shows, you have some amazing readings happen. But I want you to tell your story. You know what I mean? I think that's important because, like you said, everybody I think has the ability to do this, and your story is kind of, it's an interesting story about, where you came from and how you grew up and where you are today.
Yeah, there aren't many mediums that I know that are the horoscope sign of Taurus like I am. I think that's something that I kind of pride myself on. I feel like me kind of being, I pride myself on try to be as grounded as I possibly can, without, kind of the eccentric stuff like that. And I guess the musician and the artist in me allows that to like turn on when I need to. When I'm on stage, I feel like I'm more, antsy and feeding off the energy of a live audience, and that's where I'm comfortable as a musician. So I think that it helps me. But I think, behind off the stage, I think I'm such this, person that I find myself kind of struggling to always relate to other mediums. And I think in some ways it's almost like, I wonder if like by design, there's a part of me that feels like I shouldn't be a medium, or, it took effort for me to kind of allow myself to explore things that the skeptical person, the earthly person that makes up part of my being struggled with. And it was never really something where I struggled ever with my faith or my connection to God. I felt like I was always born knowing that connection was alive since the day I was born somehow. And then, when my family taught me religion and other things of faith and spirituality, it only just accentuated what I always felt was always there within me. But it's the idea of, making such a bold claim. And yes, if I was watching TV and seeing other people make these statements that I and other people like myself make, there's a big part of me that would go, I'd be just right next to Archie Bunker rolling my eyes at a lot of it. And sometimes I still do, but I really feel like I really had a beautiful family that was so kind of one side skeptic, one side big believer in psychics, that I got the best of both worlds. And there was a part in my life where when my grandparents started passing away, I started kind of noticing that there was a part of me that felt like I still was interacting with them. And it was really me just giving myself permission to go, I need to go explore that. And I need to know why I feel that and where do they go. And once I started kind of learning about things, a lot of the books that I read, when I was reading the books, I'd be going like, oh yeah, there's a part of me that knows this already. Like it just resonated with me. It wasn't like I was learning something new. It was almost like I was being reminded. And so I was like, oh yeah. And so, you know, when I was in high school, it was around the time of September 11th here in Long Island where I live, and you know, anybody was indirectly or directly affected by that magnitude of tragedy. And that kind of was the opportunity where I was just old enough that I feel like people would take me serious, and not right away, but soon after, a lot of the students that had lost their parents in 9/11, I would get information sitting next to them in science class. And I went to my guidance counselors and I told them, you know, hey, this is kind of distracting and I feel like I can do this. And I couldn't believe, lo and behold, the faculty of my school district in Long Island was so supportive of me.
That's
which,
awesome.
you know, looking back, I'm like, how lucky and fortunate was I?
Yeah.
You know, but it's also the sign of the times. My generation, I think, is more susceptible and sensitive, and our parents are a little more, you know, my parents' generation's a little more like, yeah, let's see. And so that really was the beginning of me realizing that it wasn't just something that I kept to myself. It was something that was meant to be shared. And I saw all these people that I went to high school with, you know, there was this really like the pretty girl in high school lost her father, and she was like the popular girl, and it was like, you know, somebody who, you know, would never pay attention to me in ever. And I just remember one time sitting with her and her family, and you know, she gave me this like big hug, and I'm like, oh my god. And it was from that moment on, I was like, oh, people can be moved by this, you know. And I also made a promise that I would never do this work just to pick up chicks, you know. But I have learned that, you know, there is this idea of the sensitive side of me.
Sure.
Is something that I think is so needed.
Sure.
And so here we are. And I've been fortunate enough to kind of have my private practice here on Long Island. And just in the last 2 years, I had a residency in Las Vegas, thanks to a wonderful LA producer. He put a show together called Brunch by an Angel, where I and two other mediums kind of had a residency for about a half a year. And so it really kind of opened a lot of doors to me to be able to do television and syndicate television, cable television, and here we are streaming now. The future is today.
Yeah,
it's me
it really is
to connect with you.
It really is, and that's what I love about this is like anybody has the ability to do this, and so I feel drawn to, you know, bring this out to many people. Yeah, is your puppy in the room?
Yeah, he wants to say hi, but I'm like, no, he can't. This is my time.
Yeah, this is your time. I just want to acknowledge some people who are in the chat room, because the chat room is always, oh, there he is. Oh, he's so cute. Hello, buddy. There you go. Nice.
Here, let me just bring him in.
All right.
All right. He doesn't want to come in.
Now he doesn't want to come in. So a couple of people who have had experience with you are in our chat room, so I just want to say hello.
Oh, nice. Am I able to see these comments?
Yeah, you should be able to. Letitia's out there. She says, what a true gift. I've had over three readings with Chris, and it has brought me great healing. Thank you, Letitia, for being here. And Nicole Bradley, Chris was my first encounter, an eye-opener that our loved ones are still with us. Sitting with him gave me so much peace and helped me tremendously. Thank you, Chris. And I've mentioned before on the show that I feel like I have this psychic fetish, meaning like I'm not like, oh, I got to go see the psychic and get messages, but I have so many friends that are psychics and I watch so many people do readings, and I just love being around the readings because I feel the energy. I don't see the messages the same way. I definitely feel the energy, and I most certainly feel the healing that happens between not only between the person who lost their loved one, also between you. You know, you're such an emotional guy. You know, I often see you get very sensitive on stage and, you know, really feel the power of the message and the story and the spirit that's coming through. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I know you were inspired by John Edwards a little bit. And I feel like John Edwards was like right in your generation, or maybe right before you, where I think more male people became readers, right? It was traditionally like females were always the psychics, are always portrayed in movies as women, right?
Yeah,
And
I think when I think back to like the word psychic when I was a kid, it was like Edgar Casey, and
oh,
he seemed, or Nostradamus. Those were like the two.
oh yeah, okay,
That
you're right.
like
Okay,
like but they were that's like 200 years old, and
yeah,
well,
yeah,
until recently I realized that Edgar Casey was probably my dad's age, and he,
right. And
he's not
Michael
as old as
Christopher,
but that was like that was it, and then yeah, it was like the Sylvia Browns, right, and then the Ruth Montgomerys and all these, eccentric type of people that,
right,
I think when John Edward came on the scene, he was kind of this personable, down to earth person,
right. He was just a
and,
regular guy. Yeah,
and
yeah,
that resonated with me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like there's no crystal ball and there's no gimmick and there's no, that was the thing I loved about it, was that it was no gimmick. It was just this natural thing, and I really think, just like I had said, he came around like the year 2000, and so just with September 11th being right there, it was those formative years of high school for me that really were just so defining for me. So when he came around, yeah, he was a part of that thing where I think because of his success, he made it easy for me to go to people and say, hey, that guy on TV, like that's kind of like who I am. I'm just,
right.
so I think I owe my life to the love of my parents and my grandparents and what they made me curious about with life after death when they died. And if it wasn't for my grandparents and for John Edward, I don't think I'd be doing this work.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing, really amazing. And Michael Christopher, who's a medium, says we're still outnumbered. Meaning,
oh yeah, and maybe can Michael Christopher tell me, like, what is the thing of why all mediums that are like anybody always are like two first names?
Yeah, Christopher Allan.
Conversation we need to be having. It's
Jonathan Edward. Wow, there you go.
Why is there no like, John Tabernacle psychic?
Right.
Why is it always Joshua Jones and Michael Andrews and
right? That's so funny. That's really funny.
These are the questions we should be asking here at Holding Space.
That's really funny.
Amongst every other spiritual person watching this, the thing is, like, what are you hiding? With me, I wish I can go by Christopher Allan Trentacost, but I just know that's impossible for people to spell in Google search. But there's a big part of me every day. I wish I could be the medium that goes by his real last name, because I feel like, oh, you're hiding something. Do you not want to be found out who you really are? And I'm like, no, it's just, actually, Alan's my dad's name. So it's really, to me, it's a tribute to my father too.
It's a tribute. Nice. Also,
because my dad is a man I strive to always emulate.
I also wanted to mention, like you were talking about John Edwards being a regular person, I also want to mention, in the video we saw, you're also a singer in a band. You're a musician and you play in a Rob Thomas tribute band, or not a Rob Thomas tribute band, I'm sorry.
So the band that he sings in, Matchbox 20.
Matchbox 20, right? A Matchbox 20 tribute band. Right.
There aren't many Matchbox 20 tribute bands, so I felt like pretty confident that should be something that should be,
Well, yeah, and I remember when I met you years ago, you were a musician, and then I think you had your own band. Oh my God, what was the name of it? Paging Grace. Paging Grace. Oh my goodness, I remembered it. I didn't remember the whole thing. So Paging Grace Grella, if you're out there. And then later on, I remember you went to the Matchbox 20 tribute band. So is that what you're doing again? Are you playing with them?
Yeah. So I think when I was in high school and into college now, and here we are, like after high school and going into college, and my goal was always that was the thing that made me feel different or special, was the idea that everybody always seemed that music was really the thing that I did really well. And I look back and I'm like, I think I'm average at best as a singer, but I do feel like as a musician and my ear and how I can hear things, I do feel like that's just something that I'm just so passionate about. So when I was going into college, the plan was, let's go to a music college, and then it was, how about like a production kind of media school that's really what I wanted to go to. But then I wound up getting this scholarship at just kind of a regular university here on Long Island, and they had a music program, but it was more broader, and so I was like, all right, I'll go there. And my goal was to be a songwriter, or I had these crazy dreams. I had this blissful ignorance of that
It's
I
not
could
so
do
crazy.
this, and then I was like, oh well, how am I going to be able to afford or even become like, doing this? Like, how would I do? It was my readings that I could do during the day that
Right,
allowed me to kind of be the rock star at night in my head,
right,
And then, but
right.
once this work started snowballing, it was almost like oh, this is what you should be. And I felt like, to me,
Yeah,
being a musician and being a medium is really kind of this very very similar. Um, I might, it's me expressing something that I'm feeling within myself to hopefully inspire or move somebody, the
mhm,
listener, and I thought it was the much safer route to be a musician. Like,
mhm.
you can be an atheist and not believe in anything, and
Right,
you know you can move somebody by music. It's
right.
like you don't
Well,
hear
I think it's less abstract,
less abstract, easy to understand, and the South won't lynch you. You know,
But you said this earlier, actually, and I want to bring it out. You said something about that you finally allowed yourself to, like, let the messages go through, right? You were talking about when you were getting these messages, and it was when you finally allowed yourself that everything kind of happened, right? And so that's when I think this became a calling. But interestingly enough, so the live stream of consciousness, the other show that I do, I like to talk about consciousness and what that means. And so for me, the idea of being a psychic medium, right, is similar to the idea of channeling. It's not the same thing, but it's similar, right? Because you're connecting to energy. You're connecting to a specific energy of somebody's loved one who passed on. um but channeling, to me, when I started learning what channeling was in general, I started to equate it with myself as a musician and those moments that I'm playing music, and I've lost track of time and space. I'm just completely in the moment, right?
in the zone.
In the zone, right? And is that similar to when you're up on stage and you're channeling and you're reading spirit? Is that kind of a similar feeling?
Yeah, I think it's more about like when I'm at the piano trying to come up with a melody. I think all the best songs are channeled.
Mhm,
There's a melody that doesn't exist in this moment, but exists somewhere, and
mhm,
you're pulling it from someplace.
mhm,
And the really good songwriters and musicians, they can get there and
mhm,
pull it down and put it in their head and put it out on paper. And
mhm, mhm,
so with reading, it's really kind of like that. It's all the information of the universe and of our loved ones or guides or angels. It's always around us. It's just we have to be in the zone and take take it, or and transcribe it and
mhm,
understand it. But it's always there. It's just like another, you know uh, audio wire, and so that it's so similar. And so that's why I always felt like, oh, it's still me being genuine. It's still me being able to try to kind of leave my fingerprint on this world of, hey, life is hard, but this is the hell here. The next world is so much better, and if we can just remind ourselves, who we are
mhm,
from the very beginning, I think we can really kind of try to, really use that awareness to really make our lives that much more richer, or get us through the toughest of times. Uh,
mhm,
with
mhm.
grief or any type of hardship and challenge, we realize that, there's so much more, and I think that's the thing that resonates with me most. It's,
Absolutely.
to remind each other, like, hey, this life is important, but it's not to be taken too seriously, because there's this other world that I think we came from, that we're going to, and we just need to kind of get through this. But let's enjoy the ride and not really get caught up in everything that, this comes, is thrown at us. And I feel like with my own family, I always try to that's what I'm selling is, you know, I'm not reading my family. I'm selling the idea of like, hey, you know, everybody looks at Chris. He's like, oh, he's gone through a lot of loss, but he seems so like he's got it figured out. And as much as I'm human and I grieve, I do very much pride myself on realizing like there's not much that can make me go crazy, because being a medium reminds me like, don't sweat the small stuff, and even the bigger stuff. Everything is somehow orchestrated or connected, or you know, in some ways, it's for our betterment, even when it's uncomfortable and it hurts. And so, knowing that, which I guess what the dead have taught me about life, really puts me in a place where I am able to enjoy life and be happy as much as possible, because nothing really gets to me.
It's wonderful.
There's no reason for it to get to you.
It's a wonderful place to be, and you know, you and I are actually personal friends, and I see you on Facebook, and I know you and Mari, your wife, travel, and you have beautiful dogs, and you do enjoy the moment. You really do, and it shows, I think, in your essence. You know what I mean, and in your happiness, and I think that is also a part of your mission, right? So besides being the psychic medium, it's also to be the most loving, beautiful essence that you can be, so people just get that from you, and they get inspired, like you said, like the way you inspire your wife to not get
I would like to be remembered as I don't, it wouldn't bother me if I died, people remember me as a shitty psychic but a really good person. Like, that's how I just want to be.
That's actually sweet. That's oddly sweet. That's really cool.
Like, I don't care about how people, like, you know, if this isn't for you, it's not for you. If I'm right or wrong, like, I don't care. Like,
well,
I have, here lies Chris. He had good intentions.
You know what's amazing is you are an amazing person, and you're also an amazing psychic, and I'm grateful to have you as.
Well, then I'm gonna put you in charge of the engraving of my tombstone.
Awesome. Awesome. That's not awesome, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome, but not awesome at the same time. So I know people are chomping at the bit, and I've been kind of avoiding questions, but people do have tons of questions. The Sacred Spiral Network, there are tons of amazing psychics on there, and a lot of them go on, and most of their shows are about readings. Again, I explained to people when I came on, my show is more about holding the space and telling your story. And again, Chris, I love hanging out with you. I loved that we worked together. I loved working on the show. I know that there's going to be more stuff that we work on in the future. Besides working on that show, I've been going through my hard drives, and I'm like, man, I've been working with Chris for a long time. I've got lots of shows, like when he was doing the hotels, and he was doing, like, you know, the Boy Scout events or whatever it might have been. You know,
Boy Scout events?
I don't remember what we were doing. We were doing lots of cool stuff. But so Seashells was asking,
man, you weren't supposed to tell anybody about the Boy Scout events. That was just
may I ask about the bird call I wake up at night from? A bird call in my home, and I have no birds. I believe this is Queen Isis. What does she wish to tell me? Thank you. I don't know if that's the kind of messages you get, but that's coming from this audience. I don't know if that means anything to you, or if you're picking up anything on that.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because I feel like when, you know, people ask me these questions all the time about, like, these things that happen to them, and you know, who would I be to say, oh, you know, just it's foolish thought, or you're reaching too much. After a while, if something happens in a consistent, frequent way, especially in an interval where it's always like the same time of day, I feel like there has to be something to it, you know. And then last week I went into New York City, and there was this family that hosted me to read their entire family, and I did it for somebody's, like, birthday, and isn't that awesome that, like, we belong to a time in society, by the way, where, like, people don't call clowns for balloon animals anymore. They call mediums to, like, be the entertainment for a party. So I also just love the idea that, like, this is the time where we are alive, like, you know, long are the days of, like, here's a giraffe. It's like, give me something I can feel now? Talk to my dead giraffe or something, or my grandma, and that's the new kids party. So we're
Oh my God, that's great. That's really
but
fun.
this lady was telling me about like how she too gets woken up every night. She always says, since my husband passed away, I dream of him every night. And then I always wake up at the same time of night, and it's always like some kind of beeping that comes from somewhere in the house that she's turned everything off, and there's still this beep, And she goes, what is my husband trying to tell me? Because it never happened until the day after he passed away. And so there's a part of me, the Taurus skeptic in me, who goes, well, there must be like a battery somewhere in your house that it's the one thing that just, you have not checked.
Right.
But then there's a big part of me that goes, no, like, if you dream of him and then this happens and it's same time, that's beautiful. And her question to me was, it was almost like she was saying, I'm aware that this is happening. And I'm aware that my husband is interacting with me. My question, though, is, what is he trying to say? And I remember looking at her like, what do you mean? What is she trying to say? What is he trying to say to you? It's the awareness, like how beautiful that he can come to you every night in your sleep and then have this moment where you feel like somehow he's giving some kind of alarm to wake you up and have you be able to reflect and remember the dream before you go back to sleep. It's like, that is the message. Like, hey, I can do this and I'm here. And sometimes I think that the smart aleck millennial in me struggles to like realize not everybody sees things so obvious as I do, as the person who lives this world every day, and I feel like sometimes it can be frustrating because you want to help people, but then there's a big part of me that goes like, how do you not realize and work this out in your head without me? Of course, this is their way to remind you that this is possible. There's a connection that goes on beyond death. And is that not enough of a message? And so, a woman was like, oh, I just needed to ask you because, they trust you. As a medium, people are looking for, that reassurance. But there's so much of my work that I feel like, I'm here to give validation to reassure. But I'm not here just to tell you what would make you feel good about things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not here to say they want to tell you.
Right. Something specific, right? They just want.
I'm here to bring up like the, people will come to me with readings. This one young girl came 2 weeks ago, and she had her family, and she came to my office, and she was in the middle of the couch of like 4 family members, and she was quiet the entire time. And I was like, do you have any questions for your grandfather and your uncle and whoever came through? And she goes, she didn't even say a word, Right. I'm like, these generation, what comes under millennials, Gen Z or Gen X?
I don't even know.
The betas of the world now. Beta whatever these younger people, folk that you call them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I felt like I should be resonating the most with the younger people for the 1 year I can still say I'm kind of, not an old fart. I was like, surely she'd be my bet. She just took out a piece of paper and she put it on my table and she just was like that. And I go, you're really doing this, right? You're doing the Houdini thing. And she was like, what does my grandfather have to say about what I just put on the table? And the family was kind of like embarrassed. They're like, oh, don't do this, don't put him on the spot, don't do. And I immediately said, Euro Disneyland. And I was convinced, it was a knowing in me, that she was going to open up a picture. It was going to be her and her grandfather in like Disneyland somewhere other than California and Florida, like in Europe. Okay. And she said, let me look. She opened it up and she was like, it's not it. I just needed to make sure. And I'm like, she doesn't even know what's in this piece of paper. And She put it back down. And at the very end of the reading, after I, acknowledge all these validations about people's names, their birthdays, what happened, behind closed doors, what happened, how this man died and his family died, I go, your grandfather just wants me to bring up being with you in Paris. And he's saying, au revoir. And she goes, and the tears start welling up in her eyes, and her face is bright red. She opens up this like double, triple coated piece of paper folded up as like cardboard. And what she put on my table was a printout of when her and her boyfriend went to Paris after her grandfather died, that made their picture look like it was a part of a French newspaper.
Okay.
And that's what she wanted me to say. Something about the thing of when she went to France after her grandfather passed away.
Right.
Her boyfriend.
Wow.
And the family was like, I couldn't. They were like, oh my God, like there's the validation. You even did this. You tried to put him on the spot. And Grandpa still kind of knew what to say. The funny thing is, I said, can I take a picture of this to remember and share with my wife later?
Yeah.
She goes, sure. I took a picture of it. And as I'm taking the snapshot with my camera, I realized in the corner of this news article with her and her boyfriend on it, with all French words, it says Disneyland France. In the lower corner, it had a little Disneyland castle, and it was as if it was like an advertisement of a Disneyland France. And I said, that was the first thing I said. It was the coolest moment.
That's so crazy. Yeah, wow.
And it's just those are the validations. And
yeah, you've had some.
We need to be talking about than just was the bird my father, or am I being woken up at 3:30 because my father's trying to tell me I'm going to be sick soon? It's like, no, they're just reminding you they're here. Once you are aware, don't go for a reading. Just live life according to the awareness that we are forever connected and eternal.
Right. He doesn't care if he doesn't work, guys. He wants you to live life. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He wants you not to go to psychic mediums. Christopher Patty is in the audience, by the way, who's saying, great job, guys. Keep God bless and keep raising vibrations. For those out there, Christopher Patty is the owner of the studio that Chris and I did that show at. He was the owner of the studio. No longer is that studio in existence. But he was a great man. Also very, very awesome. He was on the live stream of consciousness recently. And we have New York Lacey saying, Chris is the real deal. Hi, Chris. Thank you for my connection. Alicia Costantino. Christopher did such a great event for us last week. So spot on with so many people. Yeah, Chris is like, again, one of the most accurate mediums that I've been around, and it's not just accuracy. I think it's like you said, like the very cool nature of the validations that you get. It's like it kind of makes it really interesting, the validations that you get.
I always try to play like me being like the Archie Bunker in the audience, and what I try to say is I'm always trying to kind of outdo myself, or try to connect with both the believers and the people that need to hear the message, but also kind of like impact people that are not sure about this work for whatever. Whether you live in a place that just is not.
You want to wow yourself, really.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. I feel like even my whole family. I feel like I was born an only child. I always feel like I need to make this world fun for me, and I do have fun with this work. I take it very seriously, but I think like once I make the connection, I'm here to remind. Like I really think also Spirit has the biggest sense of humor. I've never encountered a soul that has ever come through for a person that I'm to read, and they come through with such like this, hey, it's like I'm still here. Like how you doing? It's always like, why are you questioning things? It's so obvious. I'm here. Like, don't you realize this? Like, how are you not realizing this without paying somebody to tell you? Like, it's always like that's always the vibe of like. How is it not clear that I'm still here?
Right. You paid for this? So Debbie O's got a good question. How can you tell the difference if someone came through while sleeping or if it was just a dream?
Yeah. Again, another response that I feel like, oh man, I feel like this has to have been spoken 200,000 times. I'm so humbled to be able to answer again. I think it's this awareness that a dream is so vivid and clear that it reminds you that you're not smart enough to have created it on your own. Like you're not capable of creating such detail and such profound, maybe conversation or interaction with somebody who's passed on, where you wake up and you go like, okay, my mind couldn't have fabricated to come up with that. It had to come from some other source. And then when it kind of stays with you and it lingers, longer than the average dream, I think that's when you get the double whammy of, oh man, that definitely was supposed to stick with me, and that's definitely something.
Totally. So I had actually an interesting realization recently. This girl that I know, her father had passed, I think probably a while ago, a year or two ago, and she got some news about the father that turned out to be, something that he did benefited, her mom and her sister somehow, and she was so happy. But it was like she had gotten the news hours before and she couldn't stop thinking about him, and she was crying and she was so sad, like all day she was crying and she couldn't stop thinking about him. And what I got from the energy, because I'm pretty empathic, right? And when someone's really sad and I feel it, it's like, oh my God, I could feel it. But what I got was kind of this message from the father that her thinking about him and conjuring up that sadness was him. It was actually him in those thoughts. That energy was him. And I was like, Fran, that's him. Like instead of being sad about that energy, use it as like, when you cry because you're so happy, like that's what you should be feeling. Like transmute that energy into understanding, like those thoughts of why am I thinking of him? Why can't I stop thinking of him? That is him. He's right there.
I love that. I really do. I think it's so profound, and again, it's you are empath. You're an empath. You've tapped on this aspect. You're surrounded by it. So yeah, the psychic antennas sticking out of you in your head too. But for the most part, you're this average guy who likes art and is interested in this work, and you're making that conclusion.
Yeah.
And so, without a doubt, it's like average people, anybody, it should be seen as like, yes, that is exactly the case. I feel like when we are so sad, we have the opportunity to morph that sadness into maybe I'm just feeling that.
The
Maybe
present,
that
right.
is them. And it's up to us to make sure, hey, we can focus on the sadness or the physical loss. We can realize this. Like we are three-dimensional. It's one-dimensional, then two-dimensional, then three-dimensional. That's what we are. When we lose them and we lose the three-dimension, we gain them in, I don't know, 8, 7, 6 dimensions. Whatever it is, it's an upgrade. And I always feel like we didn't lose them, we gained them.
Right.
And that's another thing that I hope people are aware of. Like, now you're not safe. Now they're everywhere. And the cool thing is, I had this one woman that came a few weeks ago. She said that she was after her mom died. She was thinking of her mom constantly on a particular day, and with her mom on her mind, she went to bed anyway, restless, and the alarm tripped in the house, and she shut it off, and then it tripped again, and she was like, oh, it's my mom. She's trying to tell me something. Mm-hmm. And she woke up her husband and was like, let's just call the whole family. And she dialed everybody at like midnight. Mm-hmm. And the only person that didn't answer her phone was her living father. And she was like, that's it. We got to go. Something's wrong with Dad. She got in the car, drove to the father's house. The father was mourning his wife so much in that first year that he decided he didn't want to be here, and he attempted to kill himself by drinking a whole bottle of antifreeze in the garage. Oh my goodness. She got to his house, and he was just on the floor having a convulsion from drinking antifreeze. And no doubt in my mind, that was spirit, or the spirit of her mom, trying to say, I need, this day is important. Something's wrong with something. I need to get your attention. And she had the wherewithal to be aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
And she saved her dad's life.
That's amazing.
And it's just those moments. You just have to be aware, and life can be going by so quick. we really have to stop ourselves and go, wait a second, is something trying to tell me something? And if you want it, it can be telling you at all times, because the consciousness, the God frequency is around us all the time.
It's right, and I think you said something important, and I mean, I think I struggle with this, right? You say, oh, I'm a regular guy, but I'm kind of around it and I know of it. You said it, and that is letting go. I think that we are kind of conditioned not to let go. We have these beliefs about the 3D and what it all means, and being so bound to the three-dimensional paradigm, that we have a hard time to let go and let that other realm come through. But I certainly have had messages come through that tell me that that's where everything is. Everything is in this realm of thought and the realm of imagination, and you need to let go, right? That's why they say children have a closer kind of connection to it, because that we come out so fresh, but then we kind of are taught to not let go, right? And that's really it. And I think through my encounters, through the show, through my friendships with people like you, I've been able to kind of not let go and have an understanding for it. And again, when I'm around somebody who's mourning so much, like those thoughts come through and I'm like, oh, wait a second, this is good that you're crying, because there's your dad. Give him a hug. He's here for you, and it's just great to be aware of that and sit in that energy. Absolutely.
Yeah, as a Taurus, again, I'll watch like things, and like I'll watch documentaries about hippies and stuff from like the 60s and 70s. And there's a lot about it that like it's like they're annoying, but at the same time, I'm like, son of a gun, they were preaching the truth. It really is like just maybe how they did it was like annoying, man. But they were really, it's all about love, man. It's about peace, love and rock and roll. I mean, it really is true. It's so true. So it's like we have to always channel the inner hippie, and some people go a little extra, But I feel like and they were onto something even in that time in history, and now I feel like we all need to bring out the little hippie in us every now and then to remind ourselves.
Absolutely,
this world can make us ugly and dirty, and we have to do our best to remind ourselves.
Absolutely.
There's more and how to clean ourselves.
I'm very guilty. I'm all about unconditional love and love. Nancy says an amazing story. Chris, we have whizzed through this hour.
Wow.
Right? It's amazing. I don't know if anybody out there has a question. I know Chris said he was willing to do a reading or two. So let's take advantage of that and see if anybody's got a question for Chris. Is that how you work, Chris? Do you need someone's birthday? How do you usually work? I mean, I know how you work in a group reading, but is it just like question based? Is it like, do you look at the chat and kind of feel someone, or?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I do these live streams, I can kind of see, who's watching or viewing, or just like, I don't know who's watching, who's commenting. I also am doing this entire show with no glasses on.
Oh, right. You have you're
doing it pretty much blind. But
all right. I'm going to put up your website in case anybody wants to get in touch with you. Chris is at imstillhere.net. The cool thing about this.
But I do want to say, just talking to you, I do feel like somebody in this gathering of who's watching your show live at the moment is connected, losing like a small kid on a bike. So there's a like ATV bicycle, like youngish death by motorbike of some sort, or by big
bike accident or something.
Yeah, bike accident. So if that resonates with your gathering, maybe they can comment or something to.
There you go. That you just answered my question, Chris, because seeing you work, that's how you work. You kind of get a vision of something, and then you try to connect it to somebody in the audience. So that's it exactly. So again, that's what Chris is feeling. A young kid on a bike or involved with a bike somehow. If anybody's drawn to that message, we'll take it further. So you did this while we're waiting to see if anyone answers. You did this amazing residency in Vegas, and now you're back. What's 2025 looking like for Christopher Allan?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's more about realizing that with the platform that Brunch by an Angel, that show in Vegas, gave me, um, and just having recently been married, I feel like the last year has been about me just getting ourselves organized. Me
Good.
and my
Good,
wife
good.
have a lot of things that we want to do, and so her and my dogs are my first priority. But I think this year is now the opportunity for me to be able to, venture out of New York and, do things kind of more on my own and stuff, and in this more national type of way, and see how far I can take that. So that's my goal of what to do this in 2025. So
Cool.
I'm trying to come to more different cities outside the tri-state area.
Awesome.
With this work, and I'm really excited.
And you should. You're truly, truly amazing. So Debbie O did respond and said a coworker's son passed on a motorcycle. So I don't know if that's who you're feeling, but
sure. And Deb, our fathers passed for ourselves as well.
So
and there's there's an association with me wanting to make sure that we bring up that my unlucky number, but I get it often in my readings. The 13th of a month has to be associated with either Pops or this family that we're talking about with the son on the bike. So the 13th has to be the big date of anniversary birthday that they want to also acknowledge around you. So those are the three things I'm supposed to bring up: is the father figure, the death on the bike, and the association with the Friday the 13th, unless there is a man named Jason running around in a hockey mask in your family. So,
okay.
which could be.
And Debbie said she's going to ask.
Oh, she doesn't know the family.
But Trudy also responds that her daughter's fiance passed in a freak accident on a
well, if for the two people that are interacting, it feels like they died like the week of like the big celebration, or they died like associated with another event in the family, as if the bike accident is also the week of their own birthday or their parents' anniversary birthday. It feels like there's the death touching another form of big significant celebration that the bike accident just completely now overshadows with time. So that feels like that's important. And I'll make fun of myself later if I watch back, but somewhere then who did you just say said that about her fiance's bike? What was her name?
That was Trudy Panko.
Okay, good. So the name Michelle or Michael has to be connected to the family too. Sorry, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at my stronger eye to try to read the comments.
Yeah, you're on a phone, so no worries. I totally get it, and no worries. It's a little difficult to probably do that. I know a lot of people. Grace Grella's mom was born on the 13th. Debbie Dad's birthday is on the 13th. So Debbie O was the one who was saying that the co-worker's son passed.
There it is. So I'm also assuming that her father would be passed on even if she didn't acknowledge that. But
okay.
But there's the father-in-law that I'm to bring up, and then I guess her dad's birthday is on the 13th of a month. So it's interesting because I just wanted to. It just brings up a crazy story that I have to share with you. If we're having like crazy conversations, this needs to come up.
Yeah.
Or I need to share. This is what it brought out of me, I guess. 15 years ago, worked near my home when I was in college. At a supermarket close to my house.
Okay.
And my dad managed a supermarket, so my first job was working at a supermarket, and that's just where that allowed me to have like insurance benefits, that being self-employed, psychic or whatever doesn't allow you to have all the time. So I had this part-time job. 15 years ago went to work. I clocked in. Within the first hour, I noticed something was wrong with me. I wasn't sick. I was off, and I just couldn't get any work done. I was as if somebody shot my dog or something, and I just was moping. My manager comes up to me and goes, "You don't look right." And I go, "Yeah, I don't feel right." He goes, "Well, why don't you just take the day off?" I go, "I would love to." So I banged right out, and I zipped back home. And right as I got home, I'm at a traffic light 1 minute away from my house, and I see a little boy, 13, 14 years old, go flying in the air, and he lands right next to my car.
Holy moly.
Oh my God. Like, this is why I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to get out. You know, my soul knew I needed to kind of be over here. Something was gonna happen. I'm gonna do CPR. I'm gonna save this kid. I get out of my car and I'm about to think I'm gonna check for a pulse and do CPR and I'm gonna bring this kid back to life. And as soon as I looked at him, I just realized all the life was gone from his body.
Oh my God.
And he was kind of bent in a way where I was like, if I touch him, I'm gonna make things worse. And I just sat next to him and I was telling him, it's okay. You don't have to hold on. Go in my head, I'm trying to help this kid cross over. And I was like, that's the least I can do, right? He's like, there's no coming back from this. I'm here. I can help. And I'm going to help him go into peace. And they pick 20 minutes later, the ambulance comes and they pick him up, and the hospital was right across the street. So maybe it was more like 5 or 10 minutes because we're so close. And anyway, this kid wound up passing away. I heard on the radio they spotlighted he died. Fast forward 3 weeks ago, I'm sitting right here in my office talking to these 3 young girls, friends, and I go, hey, just like tonight, I'm getting somebody who died in a bike accident. And they go, oh my God, yeah, our best friend. And I go, oh wow. And they're like, we were just talking in the car. We didn't make this appointment to hear from him, but we said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if he came through? And I was like, well, here they are. Here he is. And then later on the reading, I said, how do you connect with the name, not Michael or Mike, but Mikey? Everybody knew everybody's Mike. It's like, that's him. And then it hits me. I'm like, maybe the accident that I saw 15 years ago, which has now become my symbol to associate death on a bike, I was like, is your friend or was your friend named Mikey so-and-so, the last name I said? And they stand up and go, how did you get his last name? I go, because I saw that and I was the last person that he was next to 15 years ago, and now his best friends are in my home. I thought it was crazy.
That's a crazy story.
Crazy story. They had no idea, because I don't live in the same town that I used to. So it's not like, oh, we need to find a local psychic. It was like they drove an hour away. They're like, oh, he looks fun. And they saw me, never thinking he would come through. And what are the odds? I was just an average person 15 years ago that saw this horrific act that took their best friend. And here he was hanging out in my home now, trying to get a message to his friends now.
Crazy. That's so crazy.
I just thought it was crazy. It blew my mind, but it reminded me oh my God, spirit orchestrates. I always believe people say
that's crazy. No, that's crazy.
Who I'm supposed to have the biggest impact on, and so it just how insane, Mike, is that story?
That's an amazing story, and I love that story too, because I know you personally, and I know a couple of your symbols, right? Like different cousins that you have and sports figures, right? That jersey numbers, certain things that are symbols for you. But that symbol, that's a pretty heavy symbol, right? I know.
Yeah. I mean, it ruined me for a while. It's something that I've never forgotten about. I'll never forget his face and how young he was, and I was so affected by his death. It really was a death, even though I didn't know him personally. I carry him around my heart for all these years.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Here we are now that I'm, and now he's using me to help his friends and family.
And here he is on holding space. That's amazing. I love it. I want to say you're getting another endorsement. T-shirts out there still, and it says, for years I lived as a functional griever. My encounter with Chris was definitely orchestrated by my mom on the other side. The rest is history, and healing is now my portion. Thank you. And that is, wow, what a testament. Teacher, thank you for sharing that on this space. with Chris, and again, that's a great testament, because I think for me, that's my psychic fetish, is being around that healing energy, because Chris, I mean, again, I know for you, when you heal someone and they walk away with that, I know you're also inside, you're like, you're crying too, you've got the little sniff going, because it's just so powerful, and you feel it, you feel that healing as well.
Oh yeah, I always try to read people as if when they lose their dad, like it's me connecting with my dad, or and my mom, who's now since passed away, like if you lost your mom and I'm breathing through, I really put myself in the shoes, and I feel like I've went through so many versions of losses, lost before I was 30, just for the sheer ability to empathize with people. I think when I was younger, I was always sensitive and uh, keen to this work, but I also know that when I was a kid, I don't think I had the empathy for people that I do now, because but this is what life does to you. It puts you in these predicaments, and then you go, oh yeah. And so like now I feel like I've been through everything, and so now I'm happy for the level of empathy I now have for people, and I think it only adds to what I'm capable of doing for people as not just an empath, but somebody who really feels for people, because I know firsthand what it is to have lost so many so soon and never have the opportunity to say goodbye, or you second guess your actions, or you think, if I did X, Y, and Z, could this have worked out differently? Or are they mad at you? Or were you too focused on yourself and not them? And then you realize, they fell and they broke their hip and they never came back. And if you just stopped being selfish and just handcuffed yourself to your grandmother, they would have never fallen and they would have never died, and they lived to 100.
Right.
And it's like those scenarios, like I think those things all the time, but I also believe that this work has reminded me, like, hey, if it happens, it's meant to happen. And you're not in control of what happens in life. You're in control of what you do with it.
Right.
And what you do next, from your mistakes or for your achievements. And really, in a lot of ways, the afterlife really teaches about life. And that's, to me, the most fascinating part of my work in life. And that's what I think, even if you're not a medium, maybe that's why this work resonates with you, because I think it's helped you become more, make your life more fulfilling, or more purposeful, or more. We now have a secret that we need to share with the whole world.
Yep. I love that. And I kind of, I'm a little torn at what to do with this, right? So we got off track because I know Trudy was also possibly talking about the bike accident, and you had said Michelle and Michael, and she says Michelle is her daughter's middle name, but then later on Trudy comes in, and she came back and said similar to how her fiance died, he took a ride on a bike in the neighborhood, lost control, and his chest was crushed, and he was gone in a minute, right in front of the whole family.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
So that was similar to the story. Yeah.
But with Trudy and the other person, when you know somebody who dies in that instant, as tragic as it is, even especially with that family who he just landed right in front of everybody, there's not a doubt in my mind that I feel like even if they artificially keep him alive or bring him back, and it's like just go inside that person's head before death. So often, like my parents, who had like really bad emphysema for years, or my mom had one kidney and was so limited with her ability to live the way she wanted, and she was always focused on life and death being so kind of one, it could be the next day or the next month, and the depression that my mom sadly kind of went through because of the health issues that were always plagued with her and her husband, my father. In the mind of the person on a bike, it's like life is good, the wind blowing in your face, and probably the last thing on their mind was, I'm going to die and this is it. And it happened so quick that I don't think the body or the mind is even able to comprehend and prepare oneself for the accident, where those were the last moments. As terrible as it is, the last moment was, I'm free and I'm flying, like a bird on.
I love that. Yeah.
And I always feel like, just remind, as sad and traumatic as it could be, it's also, if only everybody could kind of be just kind of plucked like that, doing something they love to do with the wind hitting them their face like they're more alive than ever. I really hope something that imagery is something that can overshadow the.
Yes, absolutely. Courtney says, I believe the soul leaves the body before death occurs. Nancy, thank you. Martella says, great show. Thank you for sharing the love, she says. Courtney, I am free as a bird now. And then, of course, Tisha, during my encounters, my mom, dead aunts, and paternal grandparents visit me throughout my 3 visits, and she's looking to hear from one more person. So I'm sure, Chris, you're going to hear from Tisha again. She's going to be back for more. Chris, you're amazing. Again, I wish I could express to everybody how amazing it is to be to see Chris in action. I love, actually, Chris, I really do love this kind of new message that you have, which is like, you don't need me, don't even worry about your loved ones. They want you to be happy. They want you to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, right? They want you to be happy. So just don't even worry about it. Do you have any words of love, encouragement, or wisdom for my audience before I let you go tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like mental illness is something that like kind of is more than ever. And I don't know if it's like, why that is. I don't know if it's vaccines from years ago or processed foods we eat that warp our body out, but I've just noticed that there's like a lot of autoimmune disease and mental illness and health, the mind, and it just seems like we now live in a society where like everybody's so super anxious and emotional. And there's just a part of me that feels like, as much as I feel like, especially in America, like, people don't look out for our true well-being with how food is made or whatever you can get in political talk. It's more of like, I really look at things as like, maybe the veil between this life and the next life is so now more thinner that we're more just kind of sensitive to that frequency energy, that like there's a part of us that's like, we're interpreting it all differently. And sometimes I think when people get anxiety or nervous or struggle with mental health, it's like almost like maybe they're really kind of getting downloaded information from spirit. Mm-hmm. And it's really something that if they just learn to work with it differently, or understand it or themselves,
interesting,
it could kind of work not against the body and the stored itself, but it can kind of be like, oh yeah, I just have to work with this. It's almost like somebody like playing a guitar in your ear, and you'd be like, like it's annoying, but like, oh, what if I just turned around and plucked the strings and tried playing it myself? Now I learned just to kind of, now it becomes something that I get to work into my life. And I feel like I feel like that's something that needs to be shared, is somehow with all that's going on in the world. It's like, stay off the newspaper, stay out of the newspaper. Well, nobody reads the newspaper. Stay off the phone, don't watch news. But at the same time, it's like, maybe we're just so overstimulated, and we're forgetting that there's one little stimuli called the God stimulus, or that little voice that we're almost like it's getting mixed in with the noise of the world, that we have to learn how to kind of push everything out, and actually maybe we can utilize what we're receiving and tweak it where it's not making us depressed and nervous. It's actually, oh no, it's pushing me to kind of remind ourselves who we really are and work more in harmony with the world and our life. And I feel like it's somehow all intertangled. So I just wanted to share that. I don't know if I
it does. Yeah, absolutely. And meditation and things like that are tools that people use to kind of get into those states and those mindsets. And Evelyn says, shift the perspective to the positive. I agree. I always talk about this stuff. Our thoughts are our choices. We are the ones in control, and especially in a time where things seem so dark, be the light.
And you just read my mind, because that was my closing thing, how I wanted to wrap it up, and I didn't. It's like, when we don't feel like we have control, we really do. We might not have control of what happens, but we have control of how we deal with it. And we are in control of our minds and bodies, even when we are prone to think, no, we can't because we have this wrong. And it's like, no, I think our soul has the ability to really make us do wonderful things. We can heal ourselves, and we are in control. And I hope you take control of the right parts of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
It's not always easy. Evelyn says it's not always easy. It's not, and that's why we work every day at it. And that's why we do things like this. We have these moments that are in our control, our intention to hold space, to be loved, to gather and to smile. Sal Rendino is out there. What's up, Sal Rendino? Good to see you. Awesome. We're just about to sign off, but thank you so much, Chris, for being here. I'm looking forward to the next time I get to talk to you and see you in person. Yeah, that's it. That's holding space for this weekend, for this week. Jessica, thank you, everyone. Bye, Courtney, Evelyn. Yep. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. All right, my friends. Next week, I'm looking at my calendar and I don't have it written down who I've got next week in my calendar, which is very odd, but I do have a great month of February and March coming up. There is a soul care conference coming up locally with some great speakers who are all going to be coming on 1 week at a time to talk about that conference. So that's what we're going to be doing next. Chris, I will see you soon. If anybody wants to get in touch, by the way, I'm still here.net. Down at the bottom of the screen, that's how you can get in touch with Chris and get a personal reading or some one-on-one time. And I will see you guys next week. Peace out.